Hi, Adjanaye again. I actually didn't want to necessarily film this, but I felt like I really needed to take a moment to reflect on this year because I have a good feeling that a lot of us feel the same way, where this year was just like, oh, this is gonna be the year. You're not gonna run away from this no more. And same, same, same. So I just wanted to kind of reflect on some of the things that 2022 has taught me. And so, number one, first thing that I feel like 2022 taught me was that I have to stay curious. I am a very curious being by nature. I've always been, and that has never changed, and I don't think that ever will. That's a part of me. And by curious, I don't just mean curious about the world around me, but also curious about myself and what's going on inside. Um, how I think, how I am, how I work, how I operate, like why I am the way I am. So I have to stay curious, but also I have to ask questions, especially to myself. A lot of self pointed questions, a lot of inward facing questions, a lot of, I think this whole year was really like a lot of me asking, who am I? This whole year, I was asking, who am I? And a big part of that comes from being involved in what people would call a high control group, like a very controlling organization. And I won't get too deep into that here, but what I will say is there were many times I was involved, not just with that organization, but also with jobs and even with relationships, um, that I really had gotten so many cues, so many, I wouldn't say red flags, like, not everything was a red flag, but there were so many cues that I had gotten. It's time to move on. It is time to move on. And I'm supposed to be putting out a part two of my last video. And part two was so hard to edit. I don't know why. It just wasn't being edited. So I started to take it as a sign as, okay, maybe I'm rushing, maybe I'm doing too much, maybe I need to just chill. And in this chill, I kept getting like, I need to make another video. And I'm like, how am I gonna make another video? I didn't even finish part two. But here I am, finally listening, because I didn't listen to the original, push to make another video, but I'm making it now. And if you want to know what's on my head, this is actually a little headpiece that I made almost 10 years ago, back when I was doing this for a business or a living. Not really a living, but it was something I was really, really into. So, yeah, who am I, right? And I feel like I'm getting the answers to that question. And I'm kind of skipping all, all over the place. But number 3 on the list was remember who you are and what you want, what's for you, everything you need. And before, I'm going to jump back to number 2 after, but staying curious about myself and asking who I am forced me to remember who was always there. I have always been this way. But I just, I will take responsibility for my own actions of getting social cues and taking them and allowing them to change who I am, allowing them to influence me to change who I am. I should say that, because nobody makes you change who you are. You decide to change who you are. You decide to change who you are to fit in and to be more acceptable and digestible to other people. Yeah, well, screw that. We ain't doing that no more. So remember who you are. That was big. Like, I feel like honestly, that was a really big ending theme for me, especially when fall time came. Woo! Fall was harvest season for me. Jeez, like, I feel like September hit me like a ton of bricks, and I honestly don't even remember September. I just remember falling down this like rabbit hole of who am I and what am I feeling? Like it was not even really I was seeking who I was, but it was just like inside I couldn't hold it down anymore. I couldn't hold who I was down anymore. It was just like inside like myself, and I do refer to myself in third person sometimes because I do feel like your inner child is separate from you, although they are you. Like you should treat them like their own person in a way because that's the best way to heal who you are. And also your higher self, your better version of you, your best version of you, I should say, is also another separate entity within you. That's how I see it, and that's how I refer to it. So I felt like I was suppressing her for so long. She was like, "Girl, what the fuck you doing? Let me out!" And she was so sick and tired of me, like, listening to everyone else but myself. Literally listening to everyone else but myself. Like, I had no trust for myself. When I felt something strongly, I always went for validation, always went to double check and see what other people said. And for the first time in April, I stepped for myself and I was just like, I need to do this. And so, whether you support me or not, I'm going to get this done. And if you don't want to help me do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. And I found a way to get what I wanted. And that was a big deal for me because it's not like the first time I've ever got what I wanted, but it's what it really symbolized for me and represented for me getting what I needed. And I regret it not so much. I said that so backwards, but I needed that. I needed to do it. And it was the best catalyst, the best catapult, the best beginning, the best start to where I am now. And I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I followed my instinct, followed my gut, followed or trusted myself. I'm so glad I trusted myself. And damn, I just realized I didn't put that on here. But number 2 kind of talks about it, where it's like, you have immense power within you. Question anyone that scratch that. Question anyone that leads you to believe different. And that's when I started to realize I gotta trust myself. I can do this. I can do anything that I want to do. It's my decision on whether it's getting done or not, and it's because I believe it has to be done with a certain person, or I believe it has to be done a certain way, or I believe that it has to be done the way other people tell me it has to be done. And it's like, yo, screw all that. Like, who's telling you that that's the case? That's not the case. So I woke up and I was like, oh shoot, remember when you wanted to be a stylist and you just appeared out of nowhere and started working with people and they were paying you to style photo shoots and you didn't even know what the hell you were doing? Oh yeah, that happened. Remember when you never even went to design school and you started designing dresses and then did a whole fashion show? Oh yeah, that happened. Remember when you went to design school finally, um, and you thought it was going to kill you because you were in the middle of grieving a loss that was deeply detrimental to your entire like psyche and being, and you didn't think you were going to make it? Yeah, that happened. Got my degree. There were so many things and so many moments in life where I had to look back and really realize, like, oh, I didn't think I was going to make that, and I did. I didn't think I was going to get out, and I did. Like, you have to kind of like take stock of the times where you were the most powerful in your own life. And for some odd reason, I'm still trying to figure out if this is like trauma based or trauma conditioning or whatever or not, but my memory has been uh what do you call that? Something that you trip over, something that holds you back, something that's a problem for you, an issue. I can't think of a good word for it right now, but it's been a problem for years. It's been a problem. Very recently, I was able to kind of unpack it with some really nice people around me. Um, I should say solid. They're not just nice, they're solid. They really provide good insight and they're helpful. Shout out to Olivia and Valentina. If you guys ever see this, shout out to y'all. Um, but we kind of like, I unpacked that it was right after I turned 17. That's a lie. After I turned 18. I was 17. After I turned 18, I had experienced a very like there's no way to sugarcoat this. It was an abusive relationship. That's what it was. And that's that. After that, and after getting out of that relationship, I realized my memory went to shit. It was really it was really around that time where I started to see people refer to me more as too young to have memory issues. And when I unpacked that, um, when I did recently, like I think that was like a couple days ago actually. Literally, it was this week. It kind of like opened a lot for me to realize, oh yeah, this suppression or this suppressing that I am doing, that I do, obviously it's a defense mechanism, that's obvious, but people don't have defense mechanisms for no reason. Like you really do things to protect yourself, to survive. And I love the saying that's going around so much, like you see it in memes, you hear it in audios that people are using over their videos and their posts. And it's really that, like, whatever you used to do in order for you to survive, it served its purpose for you. Now is the time for you to do what you want to do in order to thrive. I no longer want to forget things that are important to me, things that matter, things that cause me strong emotion. Because it got to the point where good and bad things I couldn't remember, because if the emotion connected to it was too strong, my like body suppressed it all. Down to my own like relationship anniversary. Like I couldn't remember and I had tried so many times. When did we get together again? Oh, something like that. And I had to look back in catalogs and like photos of like the first time we took pictures together just to remember, just to get a sense. Oh yeah, it was that day. Oh yeah. And I did that for like we've been together for a few years now. So it's been years. I've been doing that for years where I wasn't able to remember the date. And I'm just like, how many times do I have to hear this date and not remember it? Like, it's not a bad thing for me. So what's going on? And that's just one example. There were so many things where it's just like, I don't want to forget this. Why am I forgetting this? This is not harmful to me remembering. Why can't I remember? And anyways, so yeah, 2020 was like it bust open that Pandora's box of like me remembering trauma and I don't know, times I was assaulted, times where just crazy shit that happened in life that I just never wanted to really remember. I never had a desire to remember or think back to, and it was just like, oh no, we're gonna remember this. You're not gonna push us down any longer. So yeah, myself, the real me was just tired of being suppressed. And she was just like, "Girl, I'm gonna wake you up this year. You gonna remember who you are this year." And that's where I'm at. And that brings us to number 4. Number 4, stop resisting. What a lesson! What a lesson. Oh my gosh. Resistance. Resistance has been something for me, something big. I've always had this kind of like trying to be a perfectionist, and with being a perfectionist, you have control issues and trust issues, and all three, they just go together. They mesh very well. Resistance, man, I never realized. Like, I'm gonna just literally read it. I'm just gonna read it. It says, "Stop." I wrote, "Stop resisting. Your body knows. Trust it. Resistance will slow you down. Go with the flow." And when I hear "go with the flow," I can't help but think back to another, I don't want to say traumatic because there's trigger. Trigger. um, I understand that there are many things that people go through that are traumatic to them, and there are also really severe things that are so traumatic it causes PTSD and other such mental um, health issues. And so a lot of times I struggle with identifying certain times in my life that cause detrimental core memories. Um, and so, yeah, "go with the flow" is a phrase that brings me back to a relationship I knew I should have never been in. And every time I hear that, I resist because this person was a great person. They just were not somebody I was supposed to be with. And I knew that. And it's so funny because I will, when I reflect on the relationship, I think of this person as a twin flame because they reflected everything um, that I was back to me, good and bad. And I just was so eager to find someone that could relate to me that I didn't realize the toxic that was present at the time. But anyway, they used "go with the flow." They kind of manipulated that phrase to mean that we should be together. And I knew that we would be great in each other's lives, but we should not be in a relationship. And so, anyways, because of that, I'm very resistant to going with the flow because I don't trust myself. But looking back at that entire situation, had I trusted myself in that moment to say, "No, I know we should not do this," then I wouldn't be so resistant to go with the flow because I wouldn't be going with someone else's flow. I'd be going with my own flow. And so I think I have to kind of fix that for me. That "go with the flow" does not mean to go with any and every flow of energy. It means go with my flow. What is my flow? The flow my body knows, and stop resisting my body. Fears, number 5. Fears are something to run to, not run from. You have all you need to overcome them. Use them. And so, fears. I realize I have a subtle fear of change. And I'm still trying to unpack exactly where that comes from. I have a sense and I have an idea, but it's just like change is exciting, but I think there's a level of, the unknown, like just with anybody. You get scared of the unknown and you're not really sure um, where this is going to go and where it's going to lead and where it's going to take you. And you don't necessarily trust that it's going to take you somewhere good. And that leads me to another point that I didn't put here, but it ties in very well, where you do attract the thoughts in your mind and you do create self-fulfilling prophecies when you think very strongly. And if you have very, very negative, pessimistic mindsets and outlooks, it's gonna come to you. Like, you're saying, whatever you're saying, you're thinking whatever you're thinking, and you're hoping it doesn't happen, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen because you're thinking so hard about it, because you're anxiously attracting it. Your energy, your aura, everything just says, negativity come. And I watched this in myself and others around me all year, and I was just like, wow, it's so true. It's so true. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, because of that, I started to change how I look at my fears, change how I look at things I'm afraid of. Because a lot of the times, the things that I was afraid of happening would happen. And then I would be like, oh, damn, what am I going to do? But I realized, and it's so funny because I'm talking about this because I was mentioning stuff like this in part two, but never got to edit it. So I'm almost wondering if this is supposed to be the part two. But anyway, we'll see. We'll go with the flow. But I would realize, once I changed my perspective of the things that I was afraid of happening when they happened, I saw the opportunities in them. And I saw that actually they weren't something necessarily to fear, but it was a challenge that I could overcome. And so now I look at things that I fear very differently. It's so funny because another opportunity kind of dropped in my lap, and I was so skeptical about it. And it's bizarre because I manifested it. I manifested it. I wanted this thing. And then it came and it just was too easy. And I'm just like, why? So now I'm like so skeptical of it. And I'm sitting here thinking, should I do this? And I'm looking in my body for that like guttural feeling of like, don't do it, don't do it. I'm searching for that. And it's nowhere to be found. I'm not feeling it. And then that's when it makes sense to me and it clicks. And I'm aware that, oh, that is the no. I know what my body feels like when it's saying no. It feels like I get punched in the stomach. Like, it feels like I have to go to the bathroom. It feels like it doesn't feel good. Like the butterflies, it's the worst of the butterflies. Like, it feels like the down, or the down before, or the up before the down on a roller coaster. Like that gut feeling. And it doesn't feel exciting. But I was looking for that, and as I didn't see it and realized that's what I was looking for, I was actually feeling like this kind of like floaty, fluttery, buzzing feeling on my shoulders. And I was just like, what's this? This is odd. I'm not familiar with this feeling. Is this what yes feels like? And I literally asked myself, should I do this? And I felt like a hum, like a of a yes. And I was just like, no, I shouldn't do this. And I felt resistance. And I was just like, what? Because I had been working this whole year, not this whole year, I'm lying, like more so the end of this year, when I realized that this was something I needed to work towards, of trusting my body and kind of getting familiar with my intuition. again. And I was just kind of taken aback because I didn't remember that feeling. I didn't remember ever having that lightness. And it's like a buzzy lightness where it's just, it was weird. It was so odd. I'm kind of like looking forward to it happening again. Okay, I just had to take a pause and make sure that the video was actually recording properly. Um, but yeah, so moving on to number 6. If you love yourself, you will have your own boundaries. Know them and respect them. And boundaries was something like a lesson that I think, you know, those lessons that you avoid learning, like you're supposed to learn, but you don't want to, so you just keep skipping over them. And because you keep skipping over them, they just keep coming back to you harder and harder and harder and harder until you get it into your head. Yeah, boundaries was one of those for me. Yeah. Boundaries was one of those for me. And that was connected to self love that I didn't realize I needed to work on. Like, I think I knew I needed to work on, but I didn't see the connection between boundaries and loving yourself. How putting, and it's funny because, like, I think about boundaries as like putting up walls, which I spend a lot of time, or I had spent a lot of time, I should say it more like that. I had spent a lot of time in certain relationships with people putting to them or helping them realize the walls that they had put up and how it was keeping people out even though they were inviting people in, which I thought was so funny. And I know, like, we all do it. I've done it. I know I do it. Because as a hermit, like, I'm a 2-4 on my human design, if anybody's into that. And if you know about that, it's literally like this dancer slash hermit that loves to express but be alone, but then loves to be around people and social. So it's just like there's two opposing sides of me where I don't want too many people in my space. I want my own space. But then if I'm in my own space for too long, I'm lonely and I'm like, oh, where's the party at? And I want to be around people. So it's kind of an exhausting imbalance when you don't know that's what's going on with you. So anyway, because of that imbalance of like wanting to be alone but wanting to be around wanting to be alone but wanting to be around people, I struggled a lot with explaining it's time for me to be alone or explaining, hey, I want to be around people. So the lines were always blurred. People could never really understand. And if I'm not, outlining or making clear where the lines are in the sand and the boundaries, then people are always going to cross them because they never know that they're crossing them. And you can't be mad at people for crossing boundaries that you don't know you have or that you don't make clear. So yeah, I'm getting comfy with this new idea of boundaries and I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. It's like a magical little land of peace. Like, what? It's beautiful. Once you learn, like, you don't have to please people, like, people can please themselves. Like, literally, you can please yourself. You don't need me to please you. And I'm not going to please you anymore. So, lastly, number 7, you are not here to save people. You are here to save yourself and inspire people to do it too, to save themselves. Bruh, big Big, 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 big. People pleasing. Saving. Savior complex. Martyr complex. All that. Like, screw all that. I'm here to experience. I am here to be a creation and to create because I am a creator. So that's what I'm here for. You're welcome to join the ride if you'd like, but I'm not trying to save you. I'm my own savior, and you are yours too. Got it? Great. So, yeah, those are the 7 lessons that 2022 has taught me, and I'm definitely taking them into next year. And I can't wait. I can't wait for 2023. I'm so like excited. I'm definitely gonna take it easy. I'm definitely into new moons and intentions now because I see when you go against them, it's just like, girl, what's the point? Just go with the flow. And the moon is big for me, as you can see. She's like my spirit animal. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, she's big for me. So anyway, that's it. Happy 2023 and see you around.